What is up, gamers? The Red Dragon here, and we are talking about the Nintendo Wii U. So, we all know that sales are horrible for the Nintendo Wii U, but if you really want to know how horrible they are, one indicator is third-party publishers, because if you're going to have a console, you need people to deliver games. And yes, most people buy Nintendo for the first-party games, but it's hard to talk people into spending, hundreds of dollars in order to buy a console, in order to buy just a handful of first-party games. So, Activision, of course, has Call of Duty Ghosts, which, even though sales are going down, it's still one of the most popular games out there, and it sells well, like it or not. And they said that Call of Duty Ghosts on the Wii U made up less than 1% of the sales. EA, just back in October, they put out their sales, and the Wii U made up less than 2% of their sales. I think it was like 1.35% or something of their sales. And when you see those numbers, it's no questioning why a lot of publishers are totally not supporting the Wii U. And Nintendo fans are upset, saying, we're just not seeing the support. The games come out and then they're not ever updated, or they're skipping over the Nintendo Wii U. And this is why. If you don't have consoles in people's homes, then people aren't going to be buying the games, and the publishers are not going to be spending the money in order to put the games out there on the console. So, I mean, overall, if you look at the overall picture for Nintendo, it's not all doom and gloom. The 3DS is doing really well. In fact, the last quarter, they did turn a profit, actually, even though the Wii U is dragging them down. But there's a lot of different problems and issues with the Nintendo Wii U that I'd like to talk about just for a second. But one of the things that I mentioned in the last video, and I admitted in the last video whenever I talked about this, I talked about the tablet and how it was, thrown in there, and it's just kind of weird for a lot of people. And I also mentioned how some people will look at the Xbox Kinect and they'll know right away. They'll say, this is something that doesn't interest me. I would never use voice commands. I would never use motion controls or whatever else. That's completely fine. Me personally, I like it. But I knew going in that I would probably like voice commands. Now, going into Nintendo, I could already kind of tell that I probably wouldn't like the tablet. And so it's the same way. For people who don't ever want to try the Kinect and it doesn't make sense for them, I can completely understand their argument and their reasoning. For me, it's the same way with the Nintendo. I have no interest in using that tablet controller. It just doesn't make any sense for me. And last time that I talked and bashed the tablet controller for a little bit, I also mentioned I hadn't played a Nintendo Wii U. And so anyway, what I did the other night was I couldn't sleep. And it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I actually went to Walmart, which I hate Walmart. But I went in there because it's the only place open. And so anyway, I went over to electronics and I sat down and I played a Wii U. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due. Whenever I was looking down at the tablet and I was playing the Nintendo, I was actually impressed. The screen had a pretty large screen. You could see everything clear as day. The graphics looked pretty good. And the controls felt good. Whenever I was looking down, it felt like this is a decent handheld game. But the moment I looked up at the TV screen and I started playing how I would normally play any other console that I have and how I want to play consoles, it felt so weird and so unnatural. And it's just like I either want to look down at my hands or I want to look at the screen. I don't want to be going back and forth between the two. And so anyway, I think Nintendo makes great handheld games, but I don't think incorporating it is the best way to go. I think the way the PlayStation did it is a lot better because you have the Vita. If you want a handheld, you want to play PlayStation 4 games on your handheld, then you can do that. The Nintendo, it's just like they're forcing you to get a handheld and a console. And a lot of people don't want both of them. I'm not interested in handheld gaming. I've never cared for it. I never did even really care for the Game Boy back in the day. I like having a big screen. I like playing on my TV. And that's just me personally as a gamer. I also like the controller that's been around for ages that everybody has grown accustomed to. And it's like, I don't like to, try to reinvent the wheel if the wheel is working just fine. And so for Nintendo, they've just got so many problems. That their marketing is completely off, because a lot of people think that the Wii U is just simply a tablet for the Nintendo, or they don't understand that it's a completely new console. So that's one thing. The other thing Nintendo has is their management, which I don't get. They keep on making bad decision after bad decision, and they still keep their jobs. And I think it's time for some people to be cut loose. That's been around there for too long. And I understand being stuck in your ways and wanting to stick with something to make sure that, if you feel that it's going to work or whatever. But once it becomes apparent that it's not working, it's time to switch some stuff up. And I think Nintendo's got to switch some things up. And if you're not bringing the third-party game developers over, if you're not selling third-party games, the only thing Nintendo has that they're offering is a handful of first-party games and a touch screen. So it's just like, I just don't see the value, okay? So I think if Nintendo maybe came out with a bundle like I mentioned previously, where it was like a Nintendo Wii U Pro edition or something that just has the Pro controller that eliminates the tablet, you're going to drop the price by a good margin, and maybe that'll bring in some more people. But really, I think it's just time to go back to the drawing board. You got to figure out what you're going to do. And either you're in for the consoles and you're going to go hard for that crowd and that market, or you're not, and it's time to just back out and focus on handhelds. Me personally, I do not want to see Nintendo exit the console market. I don't think that's good for anybody. And so I don't want to see that happen. I want to buy a Nintendo, but I want to have a reason to buy a Nintendo. And as it stands right now, there's just no reason that I would ever buy a Nintendo as it stands right now. Post your comments below. Let me know what you think is going on with Nintendo. Do you think that the third-party sales, do you agree with me that they mean an awful lot if you can't get other people to make games for your system? Or do you think Nintendo should continue down the path they are and just cater to that Nintendo fan base? That does it for me, The Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.